Hey guys, this is Sean with LOLOHO. Today we're taking a look at the Sigma 30mm f2.8 art prime lens. Now the first thing you notice when you pick up this lens is the focus barrel is smooth. Normally with focus rings we have some kind of rubbery texture or at least a ridged metallic texture, but for some reason Sigma has opted to go with a smooth metallic focus ring. It's not everybody's cup of tea. I'm not sure why they did that unless they're just wanting to set the art series apart, but once you adjust to it, it actually works just fine. It's grippy enough. On the side of the lens you'll see the art logo designation. To answer the first question about this lens, is it sharp? Yes, it's sharp. It's very sharp, and that's why you buy a prime lens, isn't it? Mounted to an APS-C body like this Sony Alpha 6000, this makes a wonderfully lightweight portable package. When you take into account the 1.5 times crop factor of the APS-C sensor, you are actually getting an equivalent 45mm angle of view in your focal length. So it's just a good walkabout type of lens. The build quality is actually quite good. These lenses are made in Japan, which is stamped at least twice on every lens, and that's usually a sign of quality. Now, one issue you may notice when you purchase a third-party lens such as this Sigma, sometimes things don't work quite as smoothly as they do with first-party lenses. The startup time can be a little bit slower with this lens, so occasionally you may miss a shot because you have to start up and wait for the camera to boot before you can fire the shutter. It's also true that you don't get quite as effective an autofocus performance with this Sigma lens as you would with a first-party Sony lens. But I'll tell you guys, if you want to talk about bargains, this is probably one of the better bargains in photography because it's a wonderful walkabout focal length. The images are sharp, the colors are pleasing, the bokeh is pleasing, it's reasonably fast at f2.8, and the price is incredible. You can pick up this lens all day long for less than $200 brand new. One thing to notice, the front filter thread is 46mm, not the 49 that you Sony users will be accustomed to. So if you want to use filters, you're going to have to use different filters or get some sort of step down or step up ring. Of course, this lens is very compact, small and lightweight. It's not quite a pancake, but it makes for a great companion on a hike or on just any kind of daily walkabout. Something that is very interesting to note about this lens for you Sony users who might be interested in going full frame. If you remove the rear baffle of the lens, as I have done, you can squeeze out a little bit more coverage onto the sensor. This is an APS-C sensor lens, but it will pair with the Sony A7 series camera. So yes, you can use this lens on a full frame camera. You will get some significant vignetting, but after you crop away the vignetting, you're probably getting between 35 and 40mm equivalent coverage on a full frame camera. You pixel peepers out there can figure it out for us. But these lenses are such an incredible value that if eventually you're moving to full frame, you can just use them on your full frame camera as kind of a stopgap measure until you pony up the cash for full frame lenses. One thing to bear in mind is when you pick up this lens and your camera's turned off, you may hear a slight clunk inside. I know many people are alarmed when they hear a clunk noise coming from their brand new Sigma 30mm prime lens, but apparently that's how the focus motor is designed. When the camera's turned off, you can hear a little rattle or clunk inside. No cause for alarm. That is completely normal. So let's take a look at this lens's special trick. I have this Sigma 30mm f2.8 lens, which is an APS-C sensor lens, attached to my full frame camera, the Sony A7 Mark II. And you can see on the back, I've removed the plastic rear baffle. It's easily removed by simply using a small screwdriver and taking out a handful of screws, and you can pull that out, and then it allows you even more light coverage passing through the lens onto the sensor.
And so it's actually a nice lens on the full frame A7 series of cameras. This lens has surprising utility from that perspective. Now, there is vignetting when you use the lens on a full frame. If you're shooting wide open, it's there, but it's correctable in post-production. Yes, you will have to crop the images due to the vignetting, but they're surprisingly usable nevertheless. You can correct for some of the vignetting. So again, this is a 30mm lens. If you do a little bit of cropping, you might end up with something close to a 35mm equivalent. And of course, that's what's provided by the Sony Carl Zeiss 35mm f2.8. So I think it's an interesting comparison between these two lenses. If we're talking actual retail prices, the Zeiss lens retails for around $800. That's the official US retail price. The Sigma f2.8 retails for around $200. So there is a crazy difference in price between these two products. They're in a very similar focal range, and again, just for comparison purposes, I've also got the FE28, the Sony 28mm f2 lens. And you can see it's a good bit larger than the Sigma. And this is an f2 as opposed to f2.8. So this Sony 28mm is a little bit faster, and it is a true full frame lens. So you'll have 100% coverage on a full frame sensor. But my point is, for the money, this is an incredible bargain. It's one of the best bargains in photography with regard to lenses. This lens is available not only for Sony E-mount, but also for you micro 4/3 shooters. And if you're a Sony E-mount shooter, I think this lens is pretty much a no-brainer purchase. Unless you're a Zeiss fanatic and you really want those Carl Zeiss colors, they're delivered by the FE35. Or if you want to go wider, you know, of course, there's the $450 FE28. But if you just want an inexpensive, sharp, prime lens that's decent in low light at f2.8, this lens actually has a lot going for it. Sigma includes with this deal a very nice lens case. In my opinion, it's arguably nicer than the lens cases that Sony includes with some of their premium Zeiss lenses, because it's a zippered case, it's rugged, made of nylon, and it's a great little case, whereas Sony typically gives you more of a pleather sock, you know, with a drawstring. So I think the zipper case beats the sock with drawstring. So who is this lens for? I would say if you have a zoom lens and you're looking to maybe test the waters of what shooting with a prime lens is like, get the Sigma 30. If you're a Sony E-mount shooter, whether you have APS-C or arguably if you have full frame, get the Sigma 30, because overall I'm very pleased with this lens. When I consider the overall value proposition of this lens, it simply can't be beat. It's a lot of fun. And again, look how small and light the lens is. I'm going to compare it against the FE35, and you'll see the Sigma is almost as thin as the famously small and light Zeiss 35. So for the money, this is one of the best deals going in photography. So that's a look at the Sigma 30mm f2.8. You know, in the past, let's say 15, 20, 30 years ago, the Sigma brand didn't really stand for quality. But I think in recent years, the company's taken great strides to deliver superior lens products at an affordable price. So you may be a little bit concerned about buying a third-party lens as opposed to buying a first-party lens for your camera. I think in the case of this Sigma Art series, you can purchase with confidence, because Sigma is really doing some wonderful things these days and cranking out some quality products. And if you're interested in buying this lens, I've included a link in the description for this video. So you can click that link and it'll take you to the Amazon page where you can read more reviews and perhaps pick one up yourself. Thanks guys, until next time, LOLOHO.
If you liked the video, give it a thumbs up. If you disliked it, give it a thumbs down. Feel free to leave a comment. And of course, don't forget to subscribe.